ultimately I want £100 million worth of property portfolio that we can sort of enjoy as a family. Gone from having no debt to like, I don't know, I'm PGing like 12 million or something. It has to go right.
Wow.
Do you know what? It's like playing a real life game of Monopoly. It literally is. And I've always loved that game from being a kid.
Stuart, how you doing? Thank you for coming on today.
How you doing, Dorian? You okay?
Yeah, very good. For those that are watching, I'm speaking today with Stuart Wyeth of SW Homes Limited. Stuart, thank you so much for coming on. Really do appreciate it. I'm very excited to be speaking with you. I always get the golden nuggets when I chat with you.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
For the benefit of the viewers, could you give us a brief overview of yourself?
Yeah, cool. So my name's Stuart Wyeth. I run a couple of companies. My main two is a loft conversion company and a property development company. I've been doing loft conversions, residential conversions for 22 years now. Started in 2001, 2002. I spent my whole career converting people's lofts. And then due to COVID, we pivoted into property development and we're really enjoying it. So we've sort of added a few more strings to our bow and yeah, we're doing bigger and better stuff. So that's what we're up to.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, obviously, I know a limited amount of your loft business, but what I do know of it is, it's a very reputable business. It's scaled, very successfully. You're a very well-known brand around your area. But one of the things I'm really impressed about is your level of systemization in your loft business. Could you just give a few seconds to the audience about how systemized you are with your loft business, how you built SkyLofts to basically run without you?
I can give hours. I mean, we've literally given blood, sweat, and tears. There was a pinnacle point at COVID. So I'll talk pre-COVID, and then we'll go into the property development stuff later. But ultimately, SkyLofts is my company. I set up in 2013 alongside my cousin Dan, who wasn't a director, but a very good friend of mine and a very good loft fitter. So I had the confidence in the building program by working with him. But prior to that, I had a previous business, which was a construction business, and it was a one-size-fits-all sort of jack of all trades. Really, two good business partners I had who were brothers. And it was fun to do, but for 5 years we were the jack of all trades. We were doing a lovely conservatory 1 minute, we were doing a full house of windows, massive loft conversions, big 700 grand full house refurbishments, and it was painful to the point where we couldn't systemize it. It was almost like too many holes in a bath that we just couldn't plug. So after 5 years of just getting more and more frustrated, I decided to sort of walk away from that business, which was like walking away from your firstborn child. It was heartbreaking and probably the hardest decision, outside of family that I've ever had to make. But the back end of that is SkyLofts is 11 years old now, and it gave me the chance to. The first company was almost like my university of how to run a business and what I liked and what I didn't like about the processes. And I had a very supportive wife when I left and had 4 months literally on the computer, 20-hour days, building every process, thinking, how can I run 100 lofts a year without my phone ringing? What systems do I have to build? So I had that goal to start with and spent 4 months, literally, my friends thought I was insane. I was literally a few weeks away from getting a job at Tesco's, nothing wrong with Tesco's, but, just to try and earn a bit of money. Because I literally started with a brand new telephone number, brand new brand, and went, right, what do we need to do? And just focused for 4 months straight. And we're lucky because it all starts with a sales tool. So I literally done my own quantity surveying sort of spreadsheet. I built every single point that I knew that would either be included or not included to make it clear for my contractors, for my staff, and more importantly for the customer. So I spent quite a few months building the formulas that, I literally can tick boxes on the chimney removal, on a Velux window, on how many steels that's required just through my knowledge, and it generates a really nice compact sort of 8-page specification. We call it a loft specification, which then will follow through with that customer right the way through. So everything's based on that, and then all our systems on top of that. We built a pre-build department and a during build department. We built an accounts team. And we're only small, we're dynamic, but it means we can run quite lean. But we can, last year we done about 75 lofts. I think this year we're looking at probably doing around 45, 50 lofts. So not looking to grow it. But prior to COVID, my absolute goal was to become the first national loft conversion company. So to carve the country up, what you're doing, and carve the country up into 27 sections, find ambitious entrepreneurial residential developers who wanted to run like teams of 3 or 4 and build, give them the systems, give them the manual, and then we could have priced everything centrally. We could have bought everything on a national scale and obviously taken a small percentage on them building lofts. And that was the dream until COVID hit, and then everything changed from there.
For those that listen, I've looked at your sheet. It's very, very impressive. And see, from a viewer's perspective, would you recommend that people with their own businesses or looking to start out, from what you did? Did you look about where you wanted to go and reverse engineer that back down? Did you? And did you build these processes to say, right, how can it look like, or what does it need to be if I need to be doing 100 lofts a year? Is that how you did it?
Yeah, exactly that. I literally had in my mind, I knew I wanted a pre-build department right up to a certain point in the process, and then I wanted someone responsible during the build. So I was built. We build everything on Salesforce now, which is a fantastic sort of. People use Salesforce to get the sale. We make the sale the point of which the flowers and the thank you cards go out. So everything up to that is a sale until it's completed. So I already built in my mind the departments and who was going to be responsible, and then it was a case of just fulfilling the right person for the right job role. The job list was already made from the systems that we built.
Yeah, and it's great. It's really impressive. I don't meet many people that have that level of, systematic thinking, so to speak, and can picture their business such far in the future and realize what processes and systems they need in place. I actually find that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners struggle on that. I mean, from your point of view, what would be a very quick top tip for a business owner? Because clearly, systemization will benefit any business. I don't think there's any business where it wouldn't benefit taking that approach. But people struggle to get going. So what would be your top tip for them to get going?
I would just take a step back. Everyone wants to run into business and start a business, and it's all very exciting, a bit like a honeymoon. Everything's exciting. There's cash coming in. Is it profit? Is it cash flow? Can I spend it? And it's all very fun. But then what people generally don't realise is that businesses go one of two ways. You're either going to sustain and grow or die, and that's it. And when you get to that point where problems start happening, you have to think about all the problems that could happen and just try and build as many systems as you can. One of the things I do with our staff is that we go out every 3 months. So we're ISO 9001 registered. So we're systems managed, basically, because I wanted to have that accreditation. I think we stopped paying for it now. We stopped paying for it a year ago because we built the systems. We've done everything we can out of that that institution.
And for those that are listening, what is ISO 9001?
And why was it beneficial for you? It's an international standard that is measured across all businesses around the globe, I believe. And it's a system where you basically have to audit yourself every 6 months or every year. I think you can audit yourself once a month for the big blue chip companies. But we used to do it once a year, where we would sit down and we would show any non-conformance. So anything that's on site that's happened, where we give fixed prices to our customers. So once the job started, we take all risk. So if we've broken a patio slab or there's a bit of glass that's chipped and we don't know if it was us or it was original, then we build new systems every 3 months to make sure that we either capture photos up front, we add it to our disclaimer, we make the customer aware these are risks that they're get involved with. And every time we have to spend money, we add it to our non-conformance. And then every 3 to 5 months, we go out with the office staff, we sit down with that list, which is shrinking, meeting by meeting. It does get smaller after a long time, after 11 years. But we are with handfuls of problems now, and it's just little tweaks in the system. And it's just one little job role ad, or it's one photo to be captured at the survey that does make a big impact to the customer and to make sure they're fully aware. So that's critical. And that's what ISO does, is it sharpens you up. It makes you so built into our DNA now, it makes no sense to keep paying for it. People buy from us because of our reputation and not for the qualification.
Yeah, it's interesting. And something you said there was early stage of business is exciting. Cash coming in, making money. That's the good trading active businesses. Property development then.
Yeah, property development. Wow.
Property development. Completely
different. Again.
So very first thing, because SkyLofts, no Sky developments, SW Homes, building a legacy. I take it that was the reason for that. And but then it's property development is not fast cash. It's the other way. It's a cash hemorrhage.
Absolutely, and that's a whole new learning curve to me. So so 2020 hit. Boris said you must stay at home, and the critical thing was, yes, we've got office staff and they're on the furlough. But when you're working with 70 contractors that you treat as family, and you're working with them every day, and they've built their businesses to service the umbrella company, which was SkyLofts, and you feel a massive sense of responsibility. And when Boris said you got to sit at home, we were like, right, we need to do something. We had a bit of cash. We had our costs were covered in SkyLofts, and we had a month or two in advance, but no one knew how long this was going to last. And a friend of mine suggested that we speak to HSBC and talk about the COVID loan. And I was like, well, we've sort of got our cash covered. I don't like debt. I never liked debt. I've got a mortgage, and I understand positive debt, what's the word? Positive debt versus good debt versus bad debt. That's what I was looking for. And so I thought about it and thought, you know what, the money's better in our bank than theirs. So I rang up HSBC, and because of the size of what we're at about £3 million plus that turnover. Within 3 days, £250,000 240 grand hit the bank, unsecured.
Wow.
For 12 months, interest free. And when I found this out from the bank, I sent them a cash flow forecast, said we've got, £1.5 million worth of developments in the residential stuff in the pipeline. And the money hit the bank. And I was like, right, now we need to focus and do something. And I always wanted to do property. I had a HMO, I had a single buy to let from a previous relationship that I've held on to since 2007 and watched that grow. Literally left it alone, earn a little bit every month. And appreciated, yeah. And I pulled out 150 grand at the same time I had this money and was like, right, we've got some cash.
You were flush then.
We were sitting there. And on the, the property index where there was 2 blank months in like March and April, where you had no data because no one was doing anything, buying anything. That was when I bought 2 properties in that period. So that was where the market was at its lowest. And, be greedy when others are fearful. You can see we both like reading books. And, And that was it. I thought, if we buy it now, it was half a mile from the university in Guildford. So we purchased that and I could throw guys on it. I could pay them and I could keep them busy because within about 4 weeks, trades were allowed to go and work outside and so on. So, and that was it. We smashed that one. Then some friends were interested watching. They were sitting at home because their company, they just sold some shares actually in their company in January, just before. They were very lucky and done very well. They had some cash. And I said to them, there's another opportunity that was up the road. In Aldershot, the next town along, and they lent me 300 grand. I used that money and we just continued and we snowballed and done 4 in a year because we had the time. SkyLofts started picking back up again, and I set SW Homes up literally as a property holding company, nothing more at the time. It was just to buy a few companies, hold them as a separate entity, and keep SkyLofts as our trading business. And it sort of escalated from there, and it's got more exciting and more ambitious as the years have gone by.
Well, yeah, I mean, if that leads us quite nicely on to so the type of projects you're doing now, Stuart, you start one single buy to let from where you started. What type of property related deals are you doing now?
So commercial to resi is really where my heart is at. I mean, going from when you've bought a few residentials, there's a decision you have to make. We do HMOs now, so we've got student HMOs and professional HMOs, and we do back to brick, and we turn them into little studio flats. So they're not your standard size mid terrace. These are oversized with the potential to put little kitchens in them and en suites that you're going to get a premium rent from. So they work really well and they cash flow great. But once you get to like 5 or 6, you're thinking, you know what, I don't really want to have like 100, 200 of these because I've got 200 mortgages to do. I've got 200 insurances to do. It's just 200 times the work. Why don't we start looking at buying one building and putting 10 or 20 units inside one building? And then you've got one insurance to do, you've got one mortgage to do, and you've got 20 people paying. So that was really the decision after about the 4th or 5th HMO we done. We still do HMOs because opportunities come which are just too good to not do. But our focus really is in buying, we started with a Boots building. We turned it into 9 flats. We're doing one in Farnham where we're getting 7 2-bed luxury flats in there right next to the train station. And in January, we start a bank, our first bank project, which we're going to get 18 flats in and a new office that we're going to build on the ground floor. And our pipeline's looking better and better. We've got more banks. We've got another 3 banks all around sort of southeast of England and more to come, hopefully.
Stuart the banker, eh? It's fantastic growth, and I'm watching it from a very close perspective as well, and it's very exciting. And you mentioned it before; it's kind of like what Amazon's Jeff Bezos says: every day is day one. Day one is constant action, constant looking forward, and you're definitely a day one type of guy, constantly looking forward, looking to do deals. For those that are very interested in property development, there's 2 main barriers, isn't it? One is finding the deal, and the other one is finding the money. Obviously building up a skill set as well to deliver it. What would be your from your experience if you was to kind of, I would say, start again, would you still recommend people do things like HMOs first to really start understanding it from a small scale? Would you still recommend that?
100%, yeah. And I honestly, it took me 10 years just to have the confidence to really run my own company, and then it took me 10 years to run my own company to then get the confidence to go into taking more financial risks. So it's not there's people out there who just, I look, I'm not risk averse, my appetite to risk is getting stronger, and I'm up for taking a bit more of a risk on these bigger ones because I think that the rewards are great. But I wouldn't run before I can walk, and I certainly would be suggesting that, save some capital, get 50 to 100 grand behind you. I wouldn't necessarily buy a house because that is a liability, but I'd have that money in liquid, in Bitcoin, in shares, in stocks that you can get to it. And then when you're ready, then go out and find the opportunity, find the lender. You need to be speaking to people about wanting to do it and tell everyone you want to do it, because I think the universe will attract things to you the moment you start telling everyone about what you're doing. And you need to have, it sort of goes hand in hand. You need investors that are interested, that they've got money around them within a few months. They need to take a deal on that's right for you. You don't want to overpay for the deal. You've got to buy right. And do one, but don't only start with, if you're in the Midlands, start with, a few $100,000. I'm in the Southeast, so my numbers were buy something for about $300,000, spend about $150,000 on it, and try and refinance it for about 600. Really basic numbers, and they're the numbers that if you do run into a $50,000 problem, you forgot the electrics, it needs to be upgraded on the whole street, or it needs a full re-roof, or whatever you've missed, and you've got some capital around you to get yourself out of that hole. And you'll sleep much better at night by doing 3 or 4 of those first, and just get better at doing them. And then once you've done those, then start taking. Then you've got assets. Where I hold everything. I don't like to sell. I know you forward sell all your stuff, but for me, we put so much energy into doing such a good job as you do. Back to brick, make it as maintenance free as possible. That once it's actually done and refinanced, I don't look at the profit that we've made as profit. I look at the cash flow it's going to generate. The profit will be there in 20 years' time, but the asset will carry that profit forward. And, it's like, why do I want to go and work for £1 today? I can build lofts or sell trainers to the States or sell books and make £1 today. But property is the only real asset that allows you to do something today and get paid £10 worth of value. Just you got to wait a few years for it. So work now. And that's the beauty of having SkyLofts as a cash flow, or having a 9 to 5, being a solicitor or dentist, or have your cash flow that pays your salary, and then have that surplus cash where we're sort of tuned to go and buy our own house, and pay the debt forever. That, you want someone else living in one of your properties that's getting value for their living costs, but ultimately they're servicing your debt, and then you can let the building appreciate, which is only going to keep.
It makes sense. I actually had somebody send me a mortgage illustration the other day, actually, and they were taking out a £100,000 loan for buy-to-let, interest only. But in the mortgage illustration, it says if you hold this for the 25-year period, as per thing, the amount you pay back would be $315,000. So that's obviously of 25 years, etc. Yeah. And so they sent me that straight away. They said, "Oh my God, there's a $100,000 loan. I've got to pay back $315,000. This is ludicrous." And I said, you've missed 25 years of rental income and appreciation there, mind. Yeah. There's an interest only, obviously, the debt's staying the same. If you put in the rental income for 25 years with a rental growth factor and an appreciation factor, well, the rental alone more than covers, but plus an appreciation factor on the capital, it ends up being a significant amount of money. And it's tried and tested, isn't it? Property does appreciate, has appreciated. If you just look back, normally timing the market, not timing the market. So I really respect exactly what you're doing, keeping it from a cash flow point of view. But like I said, to get it going, it can be challenging as a new investor or developer. If you're in a full-time job, you don't have much capital, and you want to build a portfolio of like high cash flowing properties like HMO, and get a few of them going, paying your cash flow so you can kind of leave your job only when it's stable enough, and you can focus on it full time. From your perspective, then, doing those few HMOs and those projects and keeping them give you that confidence to step into the sort of bigger projects because you're systemized now. You know what's coming up. Obviously, there's always going to be new things. What's been one of the biggest challenges or surprises from what you expected? Yeah, because there's a lot of translatable skills from SkyLofts. Doing 50 or 70 lofts a year, that is an incredible amount of lofts to get right, get customer satisfaction from. So you've got huge translatable skills that you've built up over the past decade. But still, what took you by surprise, scaling up in property?
Well, I think what you know, but I'm trying now to. We had a lunch with some of my management team yesterday about they really don't understand the whole process. So we are literally starting from scratch. We're taking our systems we've got and the departments we've got, and we're taking out procedures and we're putting new ones in. And I think that's going to take another 5 years. For us to really nail this. And my ultimate goal is to build 200 flats a year, to hold most of them until we start potentially doing some stuff like you and sell them on to affordable housing companies. But ultimately, to do that, we've got a lot to learn. And I think literally to breaking down the steps from the initial inquiry through to putting the appraisal together, through to the offer being accepted, through to the designer going in, through to getting on with the VOA, all these things we have to do along the process, we're learning in real time now. And it's going to be an exciting but challenging year next year. And I think that is it gets me out of bed, right? If I wanted to enjoy 5-6 grand a month coming in from some HMOs, then great. A lot of people would enjoy that and have a good life, but I don't really do it for the money. I'm quite happy to live a humbled life and just throw everything I've got and all my energy while I'm younger into this, because I know that when I do get to 50 plus, life will get quite exciting and quite fun for the latter part of my life. So,
Because that's a really key point there. Obviously, for most people, you can build up your cash flow to a certain level and be sorted. But your goal is there: 200 apartments, 200 homes a year for rental. That's a huge target. You touched on it there, but what is the purpose? Why are you doing it?
do you know what? It's like playing a real life game Monopoly. It literally is. And I've always loved that game from being a kid. Ultimately, we're putting housing into the system. We're helping the environment, which we're doing everything eco-friendly. Everything's got solar panels on it, air source heat pumps. We're insulating. We're bringing old property stock that's 200 years old, and we're bringing it to give it another 100 years or plus worth of life. I love the fact that we're trying to help younger people get on the market, whether they own it or whether we sell it to them in the future. That's quite a big key for me. But what else would I do with my life?
You like the game, don't you? You like the game.
Love the game. Well, my first job was B&Q, right? So I knew I wanted to be an architect. I always saw myself building skyscrapers in London. I just loved the freedom of building what we want.
Is that where Sky came from? Was that or just out of curiosity?
Yeah. And it was available as a URL. My last company, the URL was quite long, and I had to write it out all the time. So I knew in my next business, I wanted to be as small as possible, and SkyLofts is 7 characters, so it's a smaller email address.
You still see some of those businesses with 7 words, and then you're asking someone for their email address, and they're just sighing on the phone, ready to say, "Right, are you ready for this?"
Yeah, exactly. And I just more time wasted. So it was another little tweak in the mechanics building SkyLofts. But why do I do it? I just love it, really. I love playing the real life game of life. Right, we're playing the real life game of life. The risks get a bit more increased. I'm PG to the hills. I've gone from having no debt to I'm PG in 12 million or something. It has to go right.
Wow, it's incredible.
Get on with it and get it done. But I've got an amazing team behind me, so the foundations are good, and they're all willing and wanting us to go in one direction as well. So some of my staff have been with me 9-10 years now. I'm hoping they'll see out their career. I want them as shareholders. I want them being part of this whole journey, because it wouldn't be fun without them, and it's certainly a joy to do it with them. So. Yeah, we do it as a team, and I love to buy buildings. It's becoming a bit of an addiction, to be honest. The last one we just bought is just beautiful.
Well, explain the one you just bought, and congratulations, by the way.
So, today we've just exchanged on a lovely old vet in Tongham, Leafy Tongham, which is a really exciting scheme. We bought it to turn it into flats originally, but then after the pre-app and conversations with the local council, we sort of dropped in there that it might be better for the site because it's on a corner plot, it's long, it's got a great frontage, and they've done it opposite the road. Is that maybe we knock it down and build 4 or 5 sort of 4-bed detached properties, which is exciting because I've always been a conversion guy. I've always taken buildings and ripped them out back to brick and worked with what's there. And because of meeting yourself and becoming friends with a few other guys from the developers club, doing new builds, it does seem really exciting, and I think I can systemize the hell out of that. A lot easier than taking an old bank and you just don't know what you don't know until you build it. So that's exciting.
We say that we do find that doing conversions versus new builds, you find that even your supply chain and the subcontractors on site, they're kind of 2 different mentalities. With new build, it's kind of like an instruction manual. It's a process, it's a system. Same things happen in the same format. With a conversion, you can strip something. Your program can go out of sequence the very next day because you found something that it's just you just didn't expect. And the guys on site, they need to be a little bit more multi-skilled and able to adapt. And it's a great, like I say, I from your mindset, you'll definitely be able to systemize. That's the problem. You'll then end up being addicted to new build then.
Well, that's that. I think that's where the team. We know it's a transition. We can get great real estate. So our brief with buying banks at the moment is they're all closing. They're in great locations. They're in beautiful, solid buildings. They've been maintained well, or as well as you can do for a 150-year-old building. And they need train stations, which if there's no parking, I'm always buying stock where I would live in any flat. If my circumstances changed, I had to live in any of my flats, I'd live in any of them in the location. I'd feel safe. We're actually finding a lot of our market is sort of middle-aged females who are maybe having a new start of life. So they might have left the previous relationship, or they want somewhere that's clean, that's tidy. They don't necessarily want to buy somewhere. but they want somewhere that's safe and they can live and enjoy. And they're staying for sort of 2 years plus, which is quite nice until they obviously move to a house or move on and buy their own thing. So it is helping people have that stepping stone. But yeah, the banks are really cool, but I think that is a means to an end. I think we'll probably do another 10, 12, and then we'll actually, while we build the new build arm, we're going to be looking at modular construction. We've got a supplier who it looks really good. And to me, I don't really want to become a builder. Doing the stuff previously in my old business when I was digging holes, putting cage-driven piles in, doing picture frame beams, and trying to work on being a builder. There's just too many. There's too many pieces. There's scaffolder, bricks, lintel, steel, scaffolded bricks, all the way up. Down, the whole chain collapses, and it's just frustrating. So if we can eliminate a lot of that by doing modular, then that will be quite an exciting part. But the bank we just bought, which we've got sort of 3 strings to our bow, really. So we've got the LOFT company, which is helping for cash flow, helps the business run, keeps salaries paid, and keeps everyone focused. And we love it. And we've got quite a few recommendations and customers there that we enjoy working with. We're obviously buying and holding properties, which are whether they're flats or HMOs. HMOs I do in on my own, and with flats I work with a partnership who's one of my ex-loft fitters, very ambitious, great guy. We got on really well, and he will manage a site for me, but take an equity slice. So he works for a reduced rate of pay, but he is the one person, the go-to guy on that job, which gives me the mind freedom to move on and find other deals and put my energy in other things, but still enjoy the ride and still pop in every week or two. They want me less and less on site because every time I turn up, a PowerPoint will move, or
you're a changer, are you? You're a changer.
No, I'm a perfectionist, and I think that what was there was not wrong in the first place. But I always think, well, if it was me using it, I'd want the fridge to open that way round or over there. And then so we're stopping that, and we're getting better at me staying away.
Keep you away. Yeah.
I'm in my office, my home office, and I've been here for about 5 years. I basically went into the office one day, and my staff had booted me out. There was no desk. There was like, we've redesigned everything, and here's your computer, and you're at home. Because I'm known as Hurricane Stew in the office.
Hurricane Stew
starts flapping around,
Yeah. Is that because you're what? Are you a constant? Are you a constant big thinker? Do you keep coming up with ideas? Do they just keep coming to you that you want to implement? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the team are very self-driven to. They've got the high level idea, and then they'll build their own processes. They'll build their own forms. They'll basically the next one we're buying. They're giving me a document. They want me to fill in everything from the noted insurer through to how much the reinstatement value is. Like, they're learning all this on the way, and they've got the skill set to do that, which means that the system then improves organically. So that's really powerful. But yeah, no, I constantly are looking out and then looking in and looking out and looking in. I'm doing less looking in now, and I've got a good team in place to do it. But when we started, I'd be thinking, right, how are we looking 12 months in advance? What are our 90-day goals? And then right the way down to what we've got to do at the end of this week and what systems we need to improve immediately.
Yeah, that's really important. So for a developer or somebody interested in property investment or development, would you recommend for them that they be more clear with exactly what they're trying to get out of the industry and what they want for themselves before they get started? Would you say that?
Well, from my own experience, I would say that running any business is important to understand the cogs. I mean, yes, the development side is important, and you've got to know how to appraise a site, but you've also got to know how to look after people. Because if you piss a load of people off on site, you're in for a headache, whether you've learned all the stuff on a spreadsheet or paid for courses, or you need to learn how to trade and stand on your own 2 feet. And whether that is buying and selling books or an e-commerce business, trading at a small level will give you a lot of the skills that I think you need to run any business. And then just applying the property is just applying a product. The property is the product. We add value to the product, and then we refinance it to get our money back, and we're left with the product with the profit left in, and we get a cash flow from it. So I say for new people, look at the new rules. Just look what's going on in the industry. So you've got Jeremy Hunt basically going to change the rules in April. Now, there could be a loophole there for new people, is that they actually buy their own property. I don't know if this is legal or not, so don't hold me to it. But you could basically buy your own property, save some of the stamp duty, then apply to turn that property, if it's the right property, into 2 flats. Do the work yourself. Understand what it's like to work with a plasterer. Understand what it's like to work in someone's house, or work with skip companies. Convert them into 2 flats, make yourself 50, 60 grand, and move on, and do that 3 or 4 times. To see if it's right for you, and and to start from the beginning, or take a flat and make it into a 2-bed flat by rejigging some walls. And you might do 2 or 3 and go flipping out. It's exhausting because it is hard work. But then obviously you've got the drive for it. Once it's finished, your bandwidth's back, and you fill it with another 2 or 3 jobs, and that's what we do, right?
So start small, experience it, see what works, what doesn't, and how you feel at the end of it. Keep your risk as low as possible, exploit the opportunities that the external market gives you if they are out there, and from there your plan will develop itself. Really, you'll know if you've got the taste for it or not, or where you want to take it. So
Exactly.
from your point of view, then, is the other reason why you do the conversions because going into new build now, have you had much of a planning issue? Because a lot of the people I speak to always have issues with the planning system, how long it takes. One of the big problems we have as new build, primarily developers, is that the planning system is so unpredictable. We've even got a site now that's been allocated for development in the council's local development plan. All consultees have come back positive, yet we've still there's been an update in a policy with immediate effect. Bear in mind, this it's been going on for years, and all
Is
of a
this?
sudden we can't get planning permission at this moment in time. Have you? So what's your planning? What's the planning strategy like with yourself?
Okay, so on that question, are you buying in urban areas and town centre locations? Or are you buying more greenfield outskirts? What those sites you just with those?
Yeah, so this site is not in a centre. It's in a built up area with residential all around, and it's actually allocated by the council to say we've allocated this in our local development plan as a site to come forward for development.
Okay.
But the problem with that is a new policy's come in with immediate effect. And obviously, we've made decisions based off that and doing all of our due diligence, and everything's positive. This new policy's come in, and then there's issue now. Does this new policy with immediate effect actually mean that all of that live information is actually relevant? Because that's going to cause a
Right.
huge issue.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
from your point of view, though, scaling your business so far and looking forward for new builds, do you see planning being a risk for you?
Um, Again, it comes down to experience. The local council, we're really targeting where we live, and I don't want to be travelling hours and hours. I want to stay as local as possible. So it's finding the right sites really that de-risk them as much as possible. So because we've got two in-house architects and we've got Megan in our office who deals with all our planning applications in-house. We're used to doing S106s and dealing with the planning officers. You've sort of got a bit of a rapport with the local councils. So, and we always go down the pre-app route, so depending on whatever size it is, and if we can build ourselves some time in the exchange and completion process, is that we'll always go to pre-app and we'll ask the council and say, look, we've got this site. What do you want us to do? Here's the three options we've got. What would you prefer?
Yeah.
Most of them stack. And if there's an option that we would rather build, we'll tell them and we'll say, look, we'd rather go this way because this suits our business model. But ultimately, we got a site at a bank which we start in January, and we wanted to put one floor on it, and we wanted to get another 5 flats up there. And the local policy, DE3 in the planning policy, said that the council may ask us to add another 5 square metres to the minimum space standards. Now, this is an existing building that we can't make any bigger. We are doing a small extension to appease them, and it makes the layout better. But ultimately, we're working with an existing building, and the building that I found that was on the tick sheet of everything we need under Class MA, which is a permitted development right that everyone in the country can use. We ticked all the boxes, but then because we put it in a pre-app, this planning officer was different to a previous planning officer who gave us permission for one down the road. So I spoke to our business development manager in our council and said, look, I'd like to have a meeting with the head planner and just want to understand this because we're a small firm. We can't be throwing 50 grand into these applications on different bits of advice. We found the policy. We called a meeting with all but the lady because she was unavailable at that meeting, but the other planners were there. So we got a face to name. They knew of SkyLofts anyway from the years we've been working with them, but it was nice to sit around the table and say, look, we either buy these buildings and try and help our local town or our local area improve, and they've already seen one that's previous that we've just finished. And the building inspector who works for this council said he's been doing it 30 years and he's never seen a converted shop done as well. So that has weight with the council. So doing a good job really went through to the head planner. Head planner sat down at the meeting and said, look, we can't be giving you any sort of any preferential treatment than we would anyone else, which I totally understand. But my stance was, I just want a shopping list for my local town that I can improve with exactly what you may or may not want, so I can go and find buildings that suit what you would let us do. And this policy that may or may not got dropped after that meeting, it allowed us to carry on with the scheme. And that's because we're not being brash, but we just want to know what we want to know. And I think that
So you would say that it's fair to say that, and I say this lightly, the area you're operating in is a pro development area. They are interested in regeneration and development, and they are looking to proactively work with developers, which is great. And that in itself is a good de-risk strategy, focusing on areas that are pro development. There are a lot of areas out there that are anti-development. And if you're trying to do developments in those areas, you're basically going up against a brick wall, and it could genuinely take years. So that's a great point. It's a good de-risking strategy, focus on an area that's pro-development. In terms of how you secure your opportunities then as well, do you mainly do contract positions, options? Do you mainly do unconditional acquisitions? How does it work? How do you manage that? Because these are multi-million pound schemes.
All of them. It depends on the opportunity. It depends on the vendor. It depends on the circumstance. It depends on if they're price driven or time driven. So this bank we're starting, we exchanged 20th of January this year, and we don't complete until 20th of January next year. And that allowed me to exchange. We gave them the 10%. We took control of the building. And in that agreement, we got a keys undertaking. We could strip the whole building out so we could cash flow that as and when we had some downtime to cash flow the building out so it's clear and ready to go for when we do it complete. That we could get the planning uplift done. So we get all that done in time. So we could then go straight on to, we complete, we go straight to developer finance. And on the day we take developer finance, we've got stub walls, we've got metal walls going up. So we've got no downtime mucking around waiting and borrowing money. That strategy works where we delayed the completion. I've got an option at the moment, which we're almost signed into, which is a similar scheme. But I'm going to be building in about 18 months to completion on that option, because that gives me the time to get the plans through, get the planning and make sure the council are on board, and then pull out if it's not the right deal because I've paid £1. And then we've done the one in the vets, we've done a pre-app. So we delayed the completion as long as we could, but ultimately it was just a standard sale. We got it for a decent price for the land. We've delayed it as long as we can for sort of 6-8 weeks. But we've also had, and because I've got my in-house architects, the day I get an offer accepted, we can get our architect in there that afternoon. Within 2 weeks, we've got drawings done and we can get a pre-app into the council. So we can de-risk it right up to the point we have to complete. But by getting the council on board and by, avoid any council that's going to give you resistance. What's the point? Your energy is better in other areas. Literally go and ask them, you build in this area or do I need to go elsewhere?
Yeah. Well, there's lots of councils in the news at the moment being, with Michael Gove, being basically the plans and the new local development plans aren't being submitted, not even in draft format. So they're basically he's threatening to utilise the government's powers to force them to. And Wrexham Council have just been, they've just been sued basically for not adopting their plan. And some councillors have been threatened that if they don't adopt the plan, they could face jail time. So there's some serious areas where they don't want development. But would you say that, because he is a bit of a topic as well, from your perspective, would you say there's a housing crisis?
In our area, there is. I mean, we're outskirts, we're Thames Valley. It's a lot of green belt around here. There's a lot of restrictions you have to know about and build into your costings. But, I mean, there's a lot of green space. I know you're learning to fly as well. I've learned to fly when I turned 30. It was my ambition to learn how to fly. And I learned a lot of business processes from learning how to fly. Now I won't do it until I'm retired.
All checklists and processes, and because if you get it wrong, you die. That's it.
That's exactly it. And it just puts everything into perspective of how you can take a situation which could be life threatening, and how you need to keep your mind focused. And it's the same thing when you're in a slight cash flow problem, or you've got a few upset customers, or whatever you're in whatever situation you've got some heat from the council. You just got to keep your mind focused and keep your focus on the big plan. But I fly a lot. Since COVID, I've focused on commercial developments, and my wife won't fly. So at the moment, I'm like, you know what, I might as well just wait till my children are a bit older, and then go back into it a bit more time with them. But I flew a lot over the UK, and there is a lot of land. There's a lot of land that's not built on. Was it 94% of the country or something that's not been built on? I think the Green Belt, the Conservatives, the Lords and stuff of this planet are. They're holding up as much as they can, but it also inflates the house market, so it's just a slight supply-demand issue, right? If they release another 2 or 3%, it will support everything. But then all the money of the bank, all the economy is locked up in property, and it's the only asset that can hold the value. So if they release too much land, then everyone's pockets, everyone deflates, the currency deflates, and that's a big problem in itself as well. So, it's by the elites.
And do you, I know this is a topic that you're much more proficient than me on. Do you see in the future digitalized currency playing a big part in real estate, property investment, property development?
If there's one thing everyone watching this takes away, is you have to go and invest to learn about Bitcoin. You have to learn about it. There's no point putting your head in the sand and going, oh, it's some sort of shitty magic money that's being played. It is a legal it's a ledger that's globalized, that cannot be hacked, that cannot be inflated. And it's the number one thing I highly recommend everyone goes and spends their time learning about, because if you learn about it, you become more bullish. You actually understand how the finance system works as it is, which is it's a complete load of crap. And it takes away powers. It's the only thing that keeps governments globally accountable. So when this Bitcoin price is going through the roof, it's just showing you what's happening to our money. And when they print trillions, which our brains can't fathom how much that actually is, and if you look on just Google how much is $1 trillion, and it will show you in as many graphics as you need to see. But when they're printing trillions on a 4-yearly cycle, you have to learn about Bitcoin. And then ultimately the blockchain technology, which will come with confidence from people understanding about it, is that I believe that everything from a ticket to a theatre through to a cup of tea, through a cup of coffee, will be built into the blockchain for evidence. And that will come down to property as well. It's too early now because it's still, we are not even on the start of the S-curve of this adoption cycle, but it's growing fast on the internet. And I think that, houses will all be done legally. Of opportunity there.
So an emerging technology, keep your eyes about it. But coming back to developers as well, property development and land acquisition. Because of that, there's not really much. Even though the land is out there, is not being within the new local development plans. So the councils aren't outlining it for development. So you can't build on it because it's illegal to, unless you get obviously planning permission. But that means competition for new development between developers is really high. How do new developers, and how did you do it? How do new developers break in? How do they get noticed? Because it can be, I wouldn't say the word clicky, but you really need to know contacts to get great opportunities that sometimes don't come to the market, and the ones that do come to the market generate so much interest if it's a good deal that it's basically the highest price wins, and that is it. And it depends who's been the most bullish. What tips do you have for people getting in and want to differentiate themselves to be able to potentially get opportunities?
It all comes down to taking big action. I mean, if you used to sit on the phone and try and build up relationships with a load of agents in your local area that you're not spending any money with, they aren't going to give you the time of day. They might say hello and do the niceties, but you're not going to be at the forefront until you've bought a building. You've done one. It's amazing, just by buying one commercial property in the local area. Every agent knew who we were. The signs are outside. My surname's above the door. We call any agent now, and they know where we are and that we're active and we're doing stuff. And a lot of them now will send stuff just automatically without me asking, saying this could be of interest to you. And they know our business plan because we tell everyone. And then when they've got their eyes open, like I said, the universe attracts what we're looking for. And all of a sudden, you never know, Monday, Tuesday, I might get a phone call saying, I've just got this opportunity come up. This is exactly what you're looking for. And then on the flip side, we'll go and see it. And then we'll be on the phone speaking to our pool of investors. And we're finding investors through social media. I think that social media can hide the fact whether, you can't really hide behind a camera. You are who you are. And as soon as you get over the fear of being on camera and just start trying to be yourself, people read into that. And I think that, I like to think that we surround ourselves with quality. We've got great trades. We sort of know what we're doing. We're taking risks, educated risks, but people want to join us on that journey. So then we go out to our social media network and say, guys, we've got this opportunity. Are you interested? And it just all comes together, really. But you've got to take action, otherwise nothing will happen.
And would you say that social medias and marketing has played a big part in your ongoing success?
I think the SW Homes thing is more personal branding because I think people buy from people. I tried to stay away from the front of SkyLofts because I wanted it to stand on its own merit. But the review, again, we were a small business, so people would buy from my interaction, and then the team who I've sort of employed and worked with who have got sort of great culture and great characteristics. They will then carry that through to the end. And there's nothing more rewarding than seeing a customer at the end of the job where they're super happy with the whole process. You might have only seen them. I might have engaged with them once, twice through the process, and yet they feel like obliged to leave a 5-star review and to write paragraphs of their experience because they want to sort of return the favour, if you like, because builders have got a really bad name. And I think that is the most rewarding part of SkyLofts, is getting to the end of a job, seeing it, because we take an old dirty attic and turn it into a hotel suite, literally, with all the little niceties that they want, and that's a big what's the word? Big achievement, really.
So Stuart Wyeth then, B&Q, going on to building a loft business, going on to systemizing that loft business and getting it to 50 to 70 lofts a year with a team, self-managed pretty much. You're out of it, going into initial investments, building up into commercial investments and much larger scale conversions and new builds. Where do you in the next few years, Stuart, where would you like to get to if you could look back?
Well, the philanthropy side is that we want to have left the world a better place than where we found it. And I think if we can spend 20 years of high energy, and we can get 1,000 flats or 1,500 flats built and done and rented or sold or whatever we're going to do to help young professionals on their way. Because again, the market isn't particularly great. Some of our competitors, or not competitors, but some of the flats that they have got the choice between renting one of ours or renting someone else's, I wouldn't live in them. So if I can build 1,500, 2,000 flats that I would live in, then there's going to be 2,000 people that are going to benefit from that. I think from a cash perspective, I mean, I just see myself living in Cannes in my 50s in a nice villa, little yacht down in the marina, and I just want to see out my days pretty much between the UK and there, and that's what I just want to do. And if it's going to cost me 30 million quid to get there, then that's just a number. Ultimately, I want 100 million pounds worth of property portfolio that we can sort of enjoy as a family. And take the team with me. I don't think I'm selfish. I think I'm fairly generous with my time and with my energy and with my money as well. And I think that the team we've built want to come on this journey with us. And I'm really excited about this new build modular thing. But that will only come if we can build 5 houses really well. And we're going to learn a lot of processes next year about building 5 houses. And if it's easier than the conversion stuff, then we'll buy banks while they're available. But then ultimately transition into this ecological AAA future standards way of building, which I think will catch a lot of the big builders off, because if it takes them 10 to 15 years to change their processes, we're going to build that in mind from the start. So once we've done 20, we can basically build blocks of 20 flats in town centre locations anywhere in the country, because we can systemize, sell the manual to another building firm, and they everything will be done for them, and they'll be able to basically build out and make good profits from just having everything geared up. So that'll all happen, but we've got to get step 1 done, which is let's build 5 houses with the product. Let's see if it works. Document everything, and see how we go. So yeah, who knows where the future holds? But I'm just loving life at the moment, and the stresses and the triumphs and the tribulations. Really, you've got to enjoy both sides of living.
Still day one, then, Stuart. Still day one.
Always day one, mate. Always.
Stuart, thanks for coming on. You've given some fantastic golden nuggets there for listeners who are both experienced and inexperienced and looking to get into property, and you've definitely motivated them as well. So, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to keeping up to date with your journey.
Yeah, well done, mate. Take care. Cheers, Steve.
Cheers.